Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and I'm really excited to have you here for another video. Now, before we move on to today's content, there's a few housekeeping items that we need to go over, so let's take a look at what some of those are. We're excited to announce that we're doing financial mentoring and financial coaching. In the description, you'll find links for the financial coaching and financial mentoring session. Now make sure you click the right one because there could be multiple options that are available based on your needs. But once you click those links, it'll take you directly to our calendar. Now this calendar has the most up-to-date information where you can book a session with us, and you can put in your information such as your name, email, and a brief summary as to what we need to know before we get started. It will automatically send you a calendar invite with your preferred method of contact, and we can sit down together and get you on a path for financial success. So I hope to see you for your next financial coaching and mentoring session. With all the housekeeping items out of the way, let's get into today's content. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. How amazing is this view? Well, I got these little ducks over here quacking away, but how awesome is this view, and how awesome it is to see these really awesome animals just out in the wild doing their thing. But anyways, that's not why we're here today. Why we're here today is as I walk and enjoy the scenery and as I take a look at what's around me, it really had me thinking of what are 3 lessons that I wish I would have known at the time when I started as a young working professional. If you're young and you're just getting into your industry, whatever industry that may be, and you're a professional, stick around because these lessons are very, very important. But if you're a little bit further into your career, as these ducks quack away, but if you're a little further into your career and you have not learned these lessons, it's still a great reminder, or just even something new to learn and something to take in, because again, these lessons apply to everybody, and whether you learn them or not, you're ultimately going to have to learn them. There's no way around them. So lesson number 1, be careful on who you share financial information with. Now, I'm a very big believer of sharing information and letting people learn from experiences. I mean, let's face it, we're all on a journey in life, and life was not meant to be done alone. So it's great to share information and knowledge when you can, and especially finances, right? This is something that I'm very big on. But one of the things that I think is very, very interesting on is who you share it with is just as important as sharing the information. And it's time for a little bit of a story. I had just graduated with my first master's, and I landed an opportunity with a great company at the time. And keep in mind, I was in my early 20s, I think I was 23 or 24, somewhere around there. And so with the offer that I had with this company, I was going to be making, I think it was a little bit over $70K a year. If not, I think I was going to do somewhere around 75 is what I'm thinking of. I'll put something up on the screen so that way we can see how much I made that year. But you're talking about 75K, give or take. It is a lot of money for a 23-year-old. And especially at the time, and this was back in 2015 timeframe, most people were only making high 20s, maybe low 30s. And if you got 2 parents working at the same time, they're probably in the low 50s, maybe low 60s, somewhere in that range. And I was going to be making more than those 2 people combined together. One would think that, okay, wow, that's a lot of money. And I remember I was very excited, and just I loved the opportunity that I was given, that I actually shared it with a friend who I worked with, and I worked with him in a fast food environment. Now, keep in mind, this friend that I worked with in a fast food environment, I mean, this guy was very close to me. I mean, the guy actually taught me how to drive, which is pretty incredible. Like, that's how close we were. And I had remembered that I had told him that I was going to be making this much money. I showed him my offer letter. I showed him some of the signing bonuses and the relocation packages that I got. And it was very, very interesting to see his response. And his response was, hey, Now that you're making all this money, do you think that you can give me money in order to put new tires on my car? I will let you know that he uses his car extensively for a living, and so that's why he wanted new tires. And so for him, it was very, very easy to, I guess, ask, to have me put new tires on his car because I was going to be making all this money. That was one of the most difficult lessons of be careful on who you tell how much money you're going to make or how much you are planning to make, right? I think it's very, very interesting that people who are winning don't ask other people for money, right? It's just, if you're able to sustain yourself and hold yourself and actually do very well for yourself, you wouldn't be asking for money. And I thought that he was doing very well. And so I thought he would be happy for me. And instead, what I got out of him was, hey, give me money because I find that it's easier for you to give me money because you're making so much more than it is for me to take a look and assess what my life is like. Is there a new skill that I have to learn? Is there something that I have to do in order to make more money? And that was a very, very tough lesson. Now, keep in mind, it can be a very close friend, as I experienced. It can be a family member, and I mean even close family members. It could be your mother, it could be your father, it could be your sister, your brother. It doesn't matter who it is. We all have people that are dysfunctional in our lives, and they will always ask you for some type of resource. So it's very good to understand how to put up boundaries and be able to say no when you need to. So a very, very important lesson for number one. So moving on to lesson number two. And lesson number two is you did not win the lottery. Now, lesson number two is a tough one, not winning the lottery. What do I mean by that? When I got the offer from the company and I was very, very excited to start and gonna see the most money I've ever seen in my life, which, like I mentioned at the time, was, a little over 70K. And of course, throughout the years, it's surpassed six figures and then some. One of the things that I want folks to realize is that what you're making today really is not a lot of money. And I've done a video about why six figures is not enough either, and I'll put it up here as a link so that way you can see what I mean. But I made the mistake of thinking that the 75,000 I think I made that year was a lot of money and I can just buy whatever I want. Now, it didn't take long for me to figure this out, considering that I started buying a lot of furniture for an apartment that I was getting. I was buying, very high-end furniture, especially, you fall for those things where they say, well, I'll give you an example. If you're buying a bed, you want to invest a lot in it because, of course, you're going to spend most of your time in the bed sleeping, right, a good portion of your life. But it's very interesting because when you're first starting out, you really don't need anything too fancy. And I quickly started to realize that the money I was making was not enough after you factor in some of the payments that I had to make between student loans and a couple of other things. So that is something very, very important to remember, that it's not a lot of money and you're going to run out very, very quickly. So you need to be very strategic on how you deploy your capital, because the most important thing is to make sure that you're able to cover your expenses. Yes, that's very true. But more importantly, that you're building the foundation and you're setting yourself up for the future. And setting up yourself for the future goes into lesson number three. And lesson number three is put something away. What do I mean by put something away? Put anything away in the sense of save a little bit of money. And you want to save a little bit of money for the future. You definitely want to start early, and you definitely want to get into the habit of doing it often. Most of the time, people always say, hey, I'll worry about it in the future, and then the future comes and they've never done anything. If you want to get started, it's always good to take baby steps, right? So put in a small amount away, particularly maybe in a 401k, an IRA, those type of accounts. You start small and you start often. And what you're starting to do with that is you're starting to build that muscle of saving. And so as time goes on, you should start increasing how much you're saving, and also as well how often you're doing it. This over time will start to compound on itself, and you'll have a very, very, very comfortable life ahead of you, because you don't have to work as much as some of your other counterparts who've never saved a penny in their lives. So those are a quick 3 lessons that I wanted to share with you while I have my little walk here. And hopefully you guys are able to learn by some of the experiences that I have. But remember, you always want to make sure that you at least implement these in some form or fashion, right? So number one, be careful on who you share financial information with. Remember, it's always good to share it. You can, but you want to make sure you share with the right people, the people that are going to be excited and happy for you, not people who are going to ask for giveaways. That's very, very tough, because eventually what you're doing is you're giving them a fish. You're not teaching them how to fish, and they will forever be on crutches. That's not good. The second lesson is you're not hitting the lottery. You didn't make a lot of money. And ultimately, too, it's money that you constantly have to work for. So don't think you can go out there splurging, buying whatever you want, because you have to be strategic on how you deploy that capital. And third, but not least, is get into the habit of saving early and saving often. It doesn't matter how much you start with. It doesn't matter how often you do it. The idea is get started. Once you get started, then start tracking how much you're doing, as in how much are you saving and how often you're doing. And then you want to start incrementing that and challenge yourself in order to increase it, so that way you can live a happy, healthy, and wealthy life. So that'll do it for today's content. Hopefully you enjoyed, and more importantly, you learned something. I hope to see you back on the next video.